Are you ready to take your striking game to the next level? Then you've got to get the focus ball. Dramatically improve footwork, timing, reflex, hand-eye coordination, head movement, and striking IQ. Lightweight and extremely portable, so you can train every time, everywhere with the focus ball.
Hi, I'm Angie and you're watching Dante's Vaccination.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? You know, I just have to say, this is amazing to see how this George Floyd case is affecting the entire world. How it has pretty much woke up the whole world, but mainly our own country. But like I said, people have been protesting all around the world, from Hong Kong to Japan to the UK, Ireland, France, Amsterdam, and the list just goes on and on and on. Matter of fact, when it comes to the United States, some of these protests have more white people there than blacks. We now have many white cops that are protesting and marching with the protesters. Now, I'm about to get into the news with ESPN and what they had to say, but before I do, I want to finish this point. I've always said, and I've always believed, in order for change to happen when it comes to racial injustices and all of that stuff, we need the good cops to come out and denounce the bad cops. Because see, before, cops would always remain silent. They wanted to stick to the code, the blue line code basically, and they would always say stuff like, hey, just remember, not all cops are bad. They would only say something like that, but they would never denounce the bad cops. Now they are denouncing, not all of them, but a huge percentage compared to before. They're denouncing the bad cops. I haven't heard too many cops come out and try to defend what happened to George Floyd. So this is progression, no doubt about it. And since we live in a country where 70% of the people here are white, we also needed white people's support. Obviously, the ones that are not racist, the ones that are compassionate about equality, the ones that can genuinely empathize with what black people are dealing with. And that is exactly what George Floyd's death has summoned. I mean, seriously, whoever thought the death of someone would overshadow the coronavirus, the pandemic that we're dealing with right now? That's exactly what happened. No one is even talking about COVID anymore. Everyone's talking about George Floyd. And the really interesting thing is, since everyone is reacting to it, it's showing people's true colors, for better or worse, which brings me to ESPN. So ESPN, they even had to react to George Floyd's death. So for the first time ever on ESPN, at least when it comes to boxing, they decide to actually talk about racism, systemic racism, and how it relates to the sport of boxing. Joe Tessitore, he led the charge, and he basically talked about boxing having the longest history of racism out of all sports, going all the way back to Jack Johnson to Muhammad Ali. This is what Joe Tessitore said. He said, in the sport of boxing, race has often been exploited and celebrated. But to no one's surprise, at least not to my surprise, Joe Tessitore never mentioned the double standards, the racial double standards that exist in the sport of boxing today. He only talked about past issues. He talked nothing about racial double standards that exist today. And then he passed the mic off to Tim Bradley and Andre Ward. Now, when it comes to Tim Bradley, I was a little surprised of what he said, because I thought he was gonna use some type of Stephen A. Smith, Drew Brees type of statement. But instead, he shared a very personal, touching experience that he shared with his very young son, where he explained after being pulled over by the police for no reason at all other than driving while being black, he had to explain to his very young son, like his father had to explain to him when he was a boy, that being black, you already have a strike against you. And it was a way for Tim Bradley, once again, to share his experience with ESPN in the whole wide world, because that's what ESPN wanted. They wanted Andre Ward and Tim Bradley to share their experience of being black in America, in the boxing world and outside of the boxing world. So then Andre Ward, he gave his take on the situation, and he talked more about the racial double standards in the sport of boxing. He talked about the fact that black people shouldn't have to play the role of a villain just to be a star in the sport of boxing. He also talked about being raised biracial, how he's half black and half white, and the racism that he dealt with just being biracial. And he said the racial double standards in the sport of boxing have to stop. So overall, it was a positive moment. You know, it's crazy because I've been telling you guys for years, boxing is solely based on race, nationality, and pride, in that order. I also often tell you guys, you can lock the truth up, throw away the key. Eventually, that truth is going to find a way to break free. And that's what we're getting now. All this time, I've been exposing these double standards, and now people that didn't even want to talk about it are forced to address the issue. Even if they only wanted to talk about, double standards 50 years ago, the fact that they're talking about it at all is a sign that the truth is slowly coming out. And something else I can tell you guys right now, this is certainly not a good look for Paulie Malignaggi, because while Paulie Malignaggi sits alone and he's sitting over here trying to tell people racism doesn't exist and these are just a bunch of black people playing the race card, trying to corner the market, as Paulie put it, and said, I'm not going to support that because that's all they're doing is playing the race card. So he's not going to support people protesting against injustices, against police officers murdering unarmed people handcuffed with a knee on their neck until they die. He's not going to come out and speak against those injustices, but he will defend or at least justify the two guys that killed Ahmaud Arbery. So while even ESPN is willing to address racism and admit that it's a problem, you still have Paulie Malignaggi on his own. But hey, that don't bother me at all. That's fine with me. If that's the side Paulie Malignaggi wants to be on when it comes to history, that's something that he got to deal with. I'm on to the next one, y'all. I always say on this channel, pay-per-view fights should actually be free. And now the day has come where I'm about to hook you up with an app where you can watch all your pay-per-view events, boxing, UFC, etc. for free. I want to introduce Block TV, the best internet streaming television app out there. They provide over 3,600 channels, including HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, and Starz. They have a massive video on demand library with over 40,000 of the new release movies and the latest TV series. And it also includes DVR. So you're getting all of this for $34.99 a month. And once again, that includes free pay-per-view. So this one right here is a no-brainer, guys, because back in Las Vegas, I was paying damn near $200 a month for my cable. Those days are long gone now. So to get the app, make sure you guys go over to getblocktv.com and put in my promo code and get 30% off your first month. You also get a free month for every friend you refer. The promo code is DBNation. Oh yeah, and since a lot of people have been asking, this app does include DAZN fights. The DAZN fights will be on Sky Sports, okay?